Let's go.
You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
Hello, podcast listeners. Al Martin here. I hope everybody is doing well. You've made your way to Making Data Simple, which I greatly appreciate. Hopefully, we're going to learn something together today. Today, I have a gentleman by the name of Kordel France. So Kordell, that's a great name, by the way. You're the next Elon Musk, I think, if it's in terms of naming. He is the CEO of Seekar Technologies. So he's founder. This is a tech startup that builds AI products for a variety of industries. But think artificial intelligence. I think one of your most critical or where you're going all in is helping medical professionals save lives. We can talk about that. I don't know if that's where it starts and that's where it ends. I know you have 3 different medical AI products through 4 product reviewed clinical trials. That's hard to say fast. So I know you're going all in on AI. You're going all in on medical. There are probably many other areas that you're expanding into as well. Welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. And now, thank you again for having me. So yeah, I am the CEO of Seekar Technologies, and I am an engineer by training and by schooling. Prior to starting Seekar with my co-founder, I was employed at a couple defense companies working primarily on autonomous systems. And while I was at those companies, I was in positions of a few different engineering disciplines, primarily mechanical engineering, systems engineering, and software engineering. So I was able to get some really unique angles at the product development life cycle just based on different engineering disciplines. Mechanical engineers don't usually like to write code, but I typically enjoyed it. So I was kind of an anomaly in that regard. But fast forward to about 2-3 years ago, my co-founder and I decided to fully engage our free time into developing Seekar and addressing, the problems we saw in the world with our AI platform. And then fast forward another year later till about 2 years ago, we decided to, officially start the business and leave our day jobs and really make this a reality, and haven't looked back. We've been profitable since then and really been able to put some really great capability into the platform.
Are you venture capitalist funded? Are you funding yourselves, or how's this working out right now? How's the business going?
So we are self-funded up to this point, and we've been just generating revenue in order to just keep going. And so we haven't really needed funding up to this point, but we are getting ready to raise a round this summer, actually, of venture capital. So it'll be our Series A, and we're going through all the details on that right now.
How many clients do you have right now?
We have about 8 paying clients.
8 paying clients. That's fair. I mean, you're just right. That's great. You need to look me up. You start going to Series A. Like you guys have got it on. Any referenceable clients you could talk to right now?
Yeah, we've worked with a company called Vista Outdoors, which they employ their umbrella company for quite a few companies. Bushnell is one of them, Camp Chef, Camelback. So a lot of outdoor companies. We've built some image recognition products for them, particularly looking at, whether or not animals have been in a certain area of the woods. So for animal conservation, which doesn't sound like a tough problem, but when you look at camera footage that is, smudged with rain and dirt and dust, and you're looking for animals that are designed to be camouflaged to begin with, it becomes a very tough problem. So we've worked with companies like that. We've worked with medical facilities. Dallas Neuropsychology is one of them. And then a couple other medical companies as well to influence the design and advise on the development of the products that I've previously spoken about. Probably the major ones we've had.
How many of the 12 of the solutions involve imaging, AI imaging?
Probably 70% of them. I'd say 8 or 9 of them. There's only a couple that don't involve imaging, and those are kind of some R&D products that are specifically for agriculture.
You need to get in the insurance business where you're looking at claims like getting drones to take pictures of houses before and after. So
I agree. Yes, that would be maybe copyright Al Martin. Maybe we'll look into that.
Well, I mean, look, that way you can when these people, say, hey, my house got hit by hail damage, and then they go, okay, the storm was yesterday. All right, let's go 24 hours. And they say, hey, nothing's wrong. They say the last hailstorm was 6 months ago, and they go look at your house directly before the 6 month mark, and they say, hey, it's fine. And like 2 days ago, you went up on the house and started hitting it with a hammer. And they say, no, yeah, there was no hailstorm, my friend. Anyway, so I got you. If you don't mind, any one more use case you want to talk about?
There's use cases. There's a couple. We can talk about something that we have research and development in, or something that we actually have, a product that's ready to go.
Your choice. What do you think is more important to the listeners? What will they find more interesting?
Do you have more financial listeners or more of like agricultural listeners? Probably more financial based listeners, right?
Probably, but like I said, I got a buddy that's so now you gave me both. I'm 50-50 on this one, but go financial. He's gonna be mad at me now, but go financial.
Okay, perfect. So something that we're actually looking a lot into and have a significant research and development effort into is the stock market analysis. So I'm a terrible investor. I don't handle emotion very well, but we built some AI models that actually can buy and sell rather well and kind of handle the volatility in the market. But one thing that is particularly interesting that is a different angle than other companies are taking is we actually look at social media sentiment. So we analyze tweets about a company, we analyze news articles about a company, we analyze Reddit forums about a company, and actually use those analytics to make decisions on how to trade a stock in the near term and in the long term. Social media acts kind of like a pulse on the market. It's more real time, so you can be more precise about short-term trades. And news articles, they aren't really viewed in real time. People usually view them after work, or they kind of make maybe shorter, longer-term decisions based off of news articles that come about a stock. So we look at those and kind of influence long-term decisions. But the results are actually quite remarkable in that regard, in that sentiment and social media and being able to look at that actually there's a high correlation in the way the stock market behaves.
Do you mean to tell me you predicted GameStop?
No, I wish. But some of the data that we have when we're combing Reddit show a giant spike in one way or the other in sentiment. And so it's crazy. Like, you can look at it in retrospect and see that, okay, yeah, I mean, if you would have acted in a certain regard, you might have been able to actually capitalize on the GameStop and AMC craze that was, happens every other week now. But it's quite remarkable.
Kordell, I don't know if you know this, but retrospect is no good in the stock market. We need go forward. We need future predictions, man.
Right. No, I definitely agree. And part of the thing is being able to take emotion out of that, right? Because especially, we don't touch cryptos, but because cryptos are too much of an emotional roller coaster to begin with, but we eventually hopefully will. But being able to take emotion out of it and, being able to license your algorithm out and say, hey, buy and trade my stocks and according to this way. And we want to allow you to look at Twitter sentiment and Reddit sentiment. And, but we don't want you to look at the news. Kind of being able to check off those boxes on what you want the algorithm to look at and see how your portfolio performs is something that's of particular interest to us and that we have active development on.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. It's emotion. That's why I say, Jed had me when he said people don't do what they say they're going to do. And it's because of emotion. Nobody's outside of that. I mean, even myself, I try to do some investing, but I've been on both sides of the market. When the market's going down drastically, when you should be buying, so you buy low and sell high. Mm-hmm. When everybody's going down, the sky is falling, and it's hard not to get pulled into that and say, oh, I'm not invested right now. The world's terrible. And
right.
It's opposite. And that's, I'm with you on crypto, though I got some folks some buddies that are all in on that.
What's crazy is that, there's all these things you can look at in which people claim they predict the stock market, and you should never believe them because it's really, really hard. But all you need to do is provide an algorithm that provides a good classification 51% of the time. You just need slightly better than half and you can make money, which sounds crazy, but you need 51% accuracy and you can actually make money. So that sets the bar on the threshold for where you really need to position your algorithms a lot lower and makes the problem maybe a little less daunting to tackle. But, ask me again in a few months when we're later down development on this, and we'll see if I eat my words.
Well, here's what I want. I'm giving you free marketing today. What I need you to do is call me immediately when the next AMC, the next GameStop is about to happen, so I can get in very quickly.
We'll do that. I'll make sure to let you know, as long as you give us 1% of royalties. But
hey, that 1% is perfectly fair.
I'm joking.
What technologies are behind Seekar? I mean, are you doing all this from scratch? Are you building Juniper notebooks and writing in Python, or do you have fundamental building blocks you're taking to help create some of the 12 products that you talked about?
In regards to what we're doing, so it's for our technology, definitely not Jupyter notebooks. We've built the platform we have a lot of these efforts to try to build out a data set and to build out a platform that can be interfaced in multiple programming languages. So, it's easy to go online and download, write 10 lines of code in a Jupyter notebook, and you have a neural network that can classify handwritten digits through the MNIST data set, right? But we have a lot more sophistication than that, in that we actually take things down to a C++ level and enable our AI models to be called in multiple programming languages, but we're also building them from scratch. So to get technical for a moment, Keras and TensorFlow are APIs that you use to build neural networks. We don't even use those at times, where we're actually building our activation functions from scratch, our entire neural network architecture from scratch, in order to make them run more intimately with processors at more of an embedded level. So our whole platform is designed to be interfaced with in multiple languages, and we have an effort right now where we will be able to actually license the platform out for different data medium recognition. So if you want image recognition, object detection, sound classification, you'll be able to log in on the Seekar website and be able to license our API with our servers and training time and everything, and we'll actually output the code with the neural network in it, or the AI model that you can download and is ready to go. And you can select Java or C++ or Python or whatever it is, and you have an entire code package with your neural network that is ready to drop in. And it's not just a model; it's a way to call it, and it's an entire actual package. And there are some other companies that are doing this, so it might not sound so sophisticated, but what makes it what separates us from the competition is that we're actually building these explainability tools into it, how the model arose with its classifications, and how it's actually behaving over time. Additionally, our models are dynamic, so they adapt. So if you have, for Seekar's platform, if we have an image recognition model that's trained on classifying apples, pears, and grapes, it's really good at identifying those three things, and then you deploy it, and then it sees cherries. Well, it's never seen cherries before, so it's not going to recognize it. But our models account for that and actually increase, and they adapt. So it'll actually learn to classify different objects and, expand its capability and neuroplastic in a way. That's part of this whole platform. We have, these customers that have contracted us out to build aspects of this platform that kind of feed into this very, this top level platform that we license out to everyone else.
It sounds like you need to be a professor. Have you ever thought about being a professor?
Oh, I have. I don't know if my graduate professors would agree with you.
You must be a kind of student. You must be a good student.
I was a good student. I got good grades. I'm very interested in practical applications over theory. And so when I would argue with professors at times, when I say, well, this doesn't really apply in the real world. You're kind of violating physics, or you're violating, whatever. To really make a product work, you should consider it in this scenario. And they go, then that obviously you don't ever want to tell a professor they're wrong, because you just dig yourself a hole. But
I hope you did that after class was over, because they don't like that.
Yeah. You make sure to send a long email afterwards, after your grade's submitted, right?
Exactly. Well, I've got some of those same after I see the. Of course, you would never be in this position, but after I see the grade, that I've had to go talk to the professor and talk them out of that grade. By the way, it did work. I want to tell you that they raised my grade, but it was as a result of some of what you're describing there. Anyway, just to end,
I love it.
I'll have a little fun. So where do you think AI is going? I mean, you're going all in. You're going into machine learning, but I guess two-part question. Look, and maybe you don't have another definition, but how do you define AI? Where do you think it's going in its relevance in the next 5 years? What's your guess? What's your thought?
So I define AI a little bit differently than I think some other people do. AI is kind of a buzzword right now, and a lot of people see software and they just attribute AI. But to me, AI is this beautiful blend of mathematics, statistics, computer science, and physics that recently has gotten a lot of attention due to the proliferate access in computational power. And it's we've got like I said, everyone's got these really high computational devices in their pocket that is capable of performing a lot of these a crazy amount of tasks, particularly in AI. And people are showing today that they're pretty amenable to technology and they're willing to learn and adapt. And I think that if we can try to change the sentiment on how AI is perceived in some walks of life, that's going to garner a lot more acceptance. People have, at least some people I've talked to, have a very troubling view of AI in that they see Terminator and iRobot. But we've got to try to convince them that that's not really what AI is now and what we're developing. It's we're actually trying to augment human capabilities and everything. I think AI in augmented reality, for that matter as well, is at a point that today that's very similar to the state of the internet in the 1990s, in that it's in its infancy. There's a lot that still hasn't been figured out. There's a lot of potential in a lot of different realms, and we're really just at the tip of the iceberg in it. And that creates a unique opportunity for smaller players to enter the market and actually position its direction and kind of influence the way that the development of artificial intelligence in general is taken. I do have a bit of concern, later down the road. There's a lot of people that think about the existential crisis that AI might pose later on. Elon Musk's whole spiel on AI, could be end humanity and everything.
Yeah.
I guess I sympathize with that in some regard, but I don't think it's definitely not the case in the near future. I think that it won't really necessarily take a personified form of Terminator or iRobot. It could be something like a stock market bot that decides to liquidate everyone's accounts and put it into a rogue stock market account, and everyone wakes up the next morning with no money in their bank. Or an AI hacks all of the Teslas and decides to drive them off the East Coast. It's like those would be pretty severe scenarios that maybe aren't too far in the future if there's a really bad player that has really bad intentions to develop rogue AI. So if we can try to incorporate these proof of ethics, these proof of explainability into artificial intelligence models, I think that would be a good direction that artificial intelligence really isn't seeing right now. But I think it's headed in that direction, and I'm optimistic, at least.
I get you on the existential threat. However, don't you think that we are going to have a few hiccups, like a couple of the ones you mentioned? I mean, those got to be in the future, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think that those hiccups are going to happen before Terminator happens, right? Like, we're going to see some severe scenario, and we already see it in some degree with the disparity in how facial recognition systems behave. A misclassification in those systems really impact people's lives if they're wrongly convicted of something, or if they wrongly, they have a misclassification. So I think, we're seeing mishaps in that regard, and we're going to see things in a less personified form before they actually take form of, Terminator and iRobot and things like that. I definitely agree with you.
Well, like, not to utilize another financial example. Many years ago, I feel like it's already hit me in that I had, at the time, I had a stock. It will remain nameless, I guess. But I had a stock, was doing really good in the stock, and I had an exit, right? And let's just say that at 100 now, I had an out at 90, and I bought it for 70. So, I mean, look, I'm going to make money. No problem. And then we had a downturn in the market one day. When I say this is a true story. One day, and what happened was the robots took over. Essentially, the stock went to, let's say, 100 to 40. And by the time my order could be executed, it was like at 40. And then,
oh no.
Then the robots, were done. Everybody corrected it, and it was back at like 80.
So that was that flash crash?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I heard about that. And I actually analyzed the hell out of that to some extent too, because that was almost entirely brought upon them by the automated trading bots.
Exactly. I mean, so it's a perfect example of automated bots. To your point, that I mean, look, I just lost in that deal because I'm not a big financial investor, so there was really nothing. I tried to do something and really nothing could come about it. But anyway, it's a perfect example of being hurt by automation and with no ill intention. Just the bots took over and it kept going down, down, down. It kept trigger, and then all of a sudden I sell at 40. So anyway, I've changed the way I do stop orders, so stop loss. Anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, AI can't. It's replicating a lot of human functions now, but there are some aspects where it's just, it might not ever replicate humans entirely. When you get into talks about consciousness and stuff, but in those regards, it really did not behave as a human would, and really, sacrifice or really hurt a lot of people.
So just a couple more questions, if you would. I want to ask you some leadership questions. You just started this company. You got a partner, I presume. You both started it, or you got more than two?
Yes, no, I have a co-founder. I mean, we have employees, but I have a co-founder who I started with. His name's Zach Newman.
What's your philosophy on leadership? Do you got a philosophy?
It's important to seek negative feedback. Sometimes that's very, very hard because, no one wants their egos hurt, and it's difficult to kind of take it on the chin and have your work criticized, but constantly seeking negative feedback, both for, on your products for development and as a leader, as an employee in general, I think is good because it allows you to reposition your sales in the right direction. And it's a lot harder to chart off course for years because you were too prideful to seek negative feedback than it is to receive that feedback earlier and readjust. So I've tried to be particularly very amenable to negative feedback and constantly seek it. And another thing is, and it could be just with the team that we have now, but another thing that I've noticed that wouldn't have originally occurred to me is that people seem to thrive when you give them responsibility and trust, right? So I'm a control freak by nature, especially when it comes to engineering and code, but being able to seeing some of our employees really thrive when you give them ownership of a product and you get out of their way and let them do what they do best, they end up doing it better than you can do. And that's been, pretty eye-opening for me. It's because well, let me get out of my own way and help let them do their job. And, they're actually going to end up doing a better job than if I was there trying to critique. So that's another thing that I think is critical for, being a leader, is being able to trust the people that you have hired and the people that you are engaged with to do the job that they're specialized in. Another thing that I think is quite important to have as a leader is to, especially as a startup, is to be kind of obsessive about the vision. In order to achieve escape velocity for a startup and really, get to a point where you have active funding and you have products that are actually generating revenue, I think that you have to be obsessive and almost live, sleep, and breathe your vision and try to realize it. Maybe not all the way and all the time, but at least to start out. And that's not really embedded in everybody, but I think it is critical. The fourth thing I think that, and I've struggled with this as well, is actually trying to maintain hobbies, or at least one hobby, to try to give your consciousness a little bit of a break. I think half of our product development insights have come from people actually working or pursuing their hobbies because they see things from a different angle, or they go, hey, maybe we could use AI in this regard. There's not really any players in this market. And I was out doing this hobby one day. And so really kind of employing that work-life balance is pretty critical.
I got it. What's your hobby?
So right now my hobby is jiu-jitsu. So I try to actively pursue jiu-jitsu, and it's taught me, being calm and being more surgical about your decisions you make is critical, not only in jiu-jitsu, but also in, engineering and kind of leading a engineering team as well.
So tell me, Kordell, you talk about work-life balance. Now be honest with me. How many hours are you working a day?
Oh, next question. No, it depends. I've been better lately, but usually I can sign my name to it on a 16 hours during the day. And, whether it's, maybe that's not actually writing, writing emails or writing code or whatever, but it's researching or helping other, engineers or whatever. But we have a lot of irons in the fire, and I'd say there's a lot of days where we put in on 16 hours worth of work in.
What are you essentially? Are you the CTO? Are you more of the CEO? Or are you, when it really comes down to it, is what I'm saying.
I guess I'm a little bit of both. I'm the CEO by title, but I also am heavily involved with engineering, and I work alongside the software developers to actually write a lot of the code too. So, and I think that's important as well, because it helps me explain at a technical level. I can alter between being technical and being less technical with customers, and kind of being able to dive to the level of granularity they need to understand the product, right? Because you can really understand the direction of the company and understand the vision of where it's going, but understand the technical limitations of what you may or may not be trying to accomplish. For a tech company, I think it's pretty important for the CEO to be somewhat technical and at least understand the product at a pretty finite engineering level. Maybe not critical, but it's very advantageous at least.
Are you going to be able to give that up when the time comes? Not the old technical. I don't know that you'd ever have to give up some of that, but in terms of the coding and the day-to-day from that perspective, I got to believe there's a time in the future you'll be ultra successful. They're going to need you as CEO and not as coder developer. My
co-founder and I have actually talked about that quite a bit, and that day might be coming soon, especially with us raising our Series A this summer. That day might be soon when we can hire more of a larger team in order to facilitate the demand that we have from customers. And that'll be hard. I'll always be, I think, an engineer and coder by heart and trade, but it's ultimately it'll allow me to kind of hand the baton off to people who are more capable and more prepared than I am to develop Seekar and all of its products.
It was very tough for me. I have to tell you, still tough for me.
Really?
Well, yeah, just because that's what you do. You can see work every day. It's like building. That's why one of my hobbies, I got a couple of them, but one of them is to work around the house. And not that I need to be doing the work around the house, as my wife would say. She'd say, look, we can hire that done. I like to see things being built and, know that I created it. And when you stop doing that, there's always, especially I'm an engineer too. To me, it's like, it leaves something to be desired, but you've got to find your value in another manner. Hey, where can folks reach you? Find out more about you in the business.
So you can go to our website at seekartech.com, and I'm on LinkedIn or Twitter. You can find me. It's Kordell France, I think, on both. So you can contact me either way. Send me an email, Kordell@seekartech.com, if you just for a free consultation, or even to just run a product idea, learn more about our technology. I love to talk about it, and we'd love to hear from some of the problems that are out there in the world that we could potentially help address, and more opportunities to give people access to our product, especially if there's any investment interest as well.
Look, I've really enjoyed it, and this has been fun. Great discussion. We could go on for probably forever. And so that's the sign of a good podcast. So thank you for being here, Kordell. Much appreciated. And I wish you the absolute very best. I hope you'll keep in touch.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for the opportunity and for a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, me too. And thanks for all you listeners out there. We appreciate it. Like Kordell, he reached out and we were able to make it work. If you have any topics you'd like to listen to, or if you'd like to be on the podcast, please reach out to almartintalksdata@gmail.com. Until next time, I'll see you on the podcast. Thanks again, Kordell.
Thanks for listening to the Making Data Simple podcast, where we make data fun. Be sure to visit ibmbigdatahub.com/podcast to access the show notes and uncover even more great episodes. Remember, the views expressed here are those of the host and its guests, and do not necessarily represent the views of IBM. Until next time, let's go. Over and out.